Who's your most overrated and underrated fighter in history? Well, it's tough to say who is definitely the most overrated or underrated, so I'll give you the two names that I usually submit when asked this question. For one of my most underrated, I wanted to go Jens Pulver, but because he got inducted to the Hall of Fame, I feel like he's now finally getting the flowers he's always deserved, so I'm going to submit Michael Bisping. Now, of course, there are a fair bit of Bisping fans, especially up in Europe, but I feel like when people talk about the best middleweights of all time, they always seem to forget to mention Bisping towards the top of the list. I mean, I guess it's a bit understandable because his wins don't necessarily pop off the page, but when you look into the stats he was able to produce, on top of him having one eye, it's just remarkable. Just some of many feats he was able to achieve was things like having 10 wins by stoppage, 10 wins by decision, being top 5 in significant strikes landed in UFC history, having 22 co-main and main event spots in 29 fights, and beat great names like Matt Hamill, Luke Rockhold, Brian Stann, Anderson Silva, Dan Henderson, and many more. And now for someone I always found to be a touch overrated, is Benson Henderson. Now again, don't get me wrong, he was a killer in WEC, had great wins in the UFC on top of capturing and defending the belt, and then went on to Bellator and started collecting checks there. He had great striking techniques, introducing the calf kick into MMA, and also being a good grappler as well, having a great rear naked choke, but with all this said, he never proper impressed me or impressed me for a long period of time. Maybe I just didn't appreciate his style or his fight IQ enough, but I always felt like he was doing just enough to win fights, like in the Masvidal, Thompson, and Melendez split decisions, and don't even get me started on the second Edgar fight that I think Frankie should have won. It truly takes a great to realize your best days are behind you and still decide to compete with the best while being well past your expiring date, so I do give Benson Henderson his credit, but I believe his resume never really bounced off the page to me. Now again, these aren't exactly my most overrated or most underrated guys, so I'd love to hear some of your names in the comments below.